Alright everyone, my name is Kevin. I am the Master Technician for T-Nerds Incorporated. We're looking at an iPhone 8. There's a small crack right here, and so we need to replace the screen. Well, technically need to. The phone would live on perfectly fine. But with that said, this phone is no longer water resistant, even a little bit. So, let's get on. First thing you need to know is there's two screws at the bottom which use the proprietary pentalopal screws. These were designed by Apple for their devices, so it'd make it a little bit harder for them to get into. Not really difficult to get into though. These screwdrivers are available pretty much everywhere online, ranging anywhere from $2 to $50, depending on which one you're looking at. So, opening the screen. On the 7, they removed the headphone jack, which would have normally been right here. Well, that's actually our major entry point, so you take an isosimo and you put it right up against the metal, where the metal and the plastic meet, and you push it in at about a 45, and you get it straight, or 90 degree, and then you put it straight down, then you lay it flat, and straighten it out, creating a little gap. Take a fingernail, guitar pick, and run it around the left and right, the bottom, and the left and right edge. The isosimo will inevitably fall out. So, once that happens, don't lift up too high. If you lift up too high, you run the potential of tearing, well, a lot of stuff, and that's not fun. So we separate a little bit of torque, things like that. I'd say heating makes it easier, but in my experience, on this device, it's already really easy to begin with. All right, so we'll take a look at the inside. Right here, we have a battery, which connects underneath this plate. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 screws that you'll have to remove to get to that. They're all Phillips head, unlike the previous generation, which was as Y-wings. Now you have a bunch of options on screwdrivers, but this is a Phillips head screwdriver. That's all it is. It's pretty straightforward. 000 Phillips head. So this is the screwdriver from iFixit. I like it, it's fast, it's smooth, it's very reliable. But if you're willing to spend a little extra money, there is another screwdriver. This guy. It's called Wow Stick. It's absolutely phenomenal. It works amazingly well. So, but understand the iFixit screwdriver, or pretty much any other screwdriver, is going to be a little bit faster than the Wow Stick. Now these 4 screws are different sized. These 2 are the longest screws, and these 2 are the shortest screws. So the plate just comes right up. Nothing special. So unlike the previous generation, this phone got wireless charging, but they changed the antenna cap, which is this one right here, from a standard wire that just plugs in coaxially to this ribbed Lego design. But because that's there, the actual battery is right here. So you're going to want to take that and just pop it up. Not too terribly difficult. It feels like a Lego. It really does. So then you can disconnect those 2, which are the LCD digitizer and home button connector, to the board. This black stuff I'm pulling out is the liquid adhesive that Apple uses. It's not that impressive. Okay, So up top we got 3 more screws, 1, 2, and 3. This is by the back camera. Again, real simple. But again, we want to keep things in order. So this plate just pops right off. Real nice and easy. And then you have the front camera flex connector, which is this guy right here. Now, in my experience, the easiest way to pull it is at about a 45 degrees straight back. And it pops right off. And there's your screen off. This is the phone. This part, i.e. the rest of the phone, is actually not needed until reassembly. Alright, so this is the screen. This is an OEM Apple screen. Nothing special about it that makes it anything better than anything else. So we've used the WOW stick, realize how long it takes to pull the screws using that. So let's switch back over to the iFixit and let's see how much faster the iFixit is. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screws, which cover the ear speaker, the front camera flex, the proximity sensor, and the day-night sensor on this. Nothing special, but all these screws are different lengths. Why? Because Apple likes to make things a little more complicated, so that if you don't know what you're doing, well, you don't get to fix your own phone. But you can see the smoothness of the iFixit one and how fast you have the ability to react. Now notice I didn't pull that last screw. There's a reason for that. When I first started doing this years and years and years ago, this phone, when this phone first released actually, I noticed that screw and didn't think anything of it. So you can take the iSesmo, give it a little twist, and this thing pops out pretty easily. I always thought that this screw was kind of useless. It's not. It's actually the most important screw that you can have in this phone. If you pull it, you'll notice it is connected to a metal bracket. That metal bracket is easily the most important bracket in the phone. And what's convenient about it is it just comes up. It's not connected to any electronic component, which is why I started calling it the useless screw, even though it is literally the most important screw. So you can take a screwdriver or something, throw it through that hole, and pull straight up. And just roll it. And you'll notice it takes the speaker grill with it. And the reason that's important is because it prevents you from damaging this laminated flex. Because this flex is multiple layers. And if you separate those layers, well, the device stops working. And we don't want that. So that's the flex, that's the ear speaker. On the flex, we've got the front-facing camera. You have a proximity sensor, a day-night sensor, the connector, and then the gold contacts for the ear speaker itself. So we can set that aside. Now we're going to the home button. This is the part that everybody's afraid of, because if you damage your home button, well, it never works again. And you can either have to get a Bluetooth option or go with a really expensive, you could take it to Apple, well, to have them laugh at you and then charge you a large amount of money to have it fixed. So this is only 4 screws, nothing special. 1, 2, 3, 4. But these are all the Y-wing screws. Nice little tiny screwdriver, works really well. And here we go. So this plate's real easy. So the part that I do that scares every technician I have ever met. Disconnect that, take this piece, fold it forward, just like that. The tool that scares everybody, the razor blade. Now, for me, I've practiced this. most people tell you use a heat mat, things like that. Well, from my experience, next to this connector here, if you're careful with the tip of the razor blade or the X-Acto knife, you can angle it right, slide it right underneath everything, turn it just a little bit, and then push it all the way to the back to where you can see it come out. But keep it flat the entire time. Now that little white nub right there, you're gonna cut that off. Doesn't seem, like I said, most technicians I meet think this is terrifying because I use a razor blade. Pops up, no issues. What's great about it is you're not wasting time waiting for the phone to heat up, using a hair dryer, using a heat mat, setting it on there and waiting. You don't have to. You cut through all the adhesive. Anyway, this screen is done. Now, there is a heat plate on the back of this, which requires 3 screws here, here, and here, here, here and here. Now those screws, on some you'll have to remove that. On some you'll also have to remove this plastic piece and this plastic piece. Me, myself, I order the screens already pre-installed with all those parts. Come from a company called Mobile Centrics. Now we like Mobile Centrics. They have some really good quality parts, which is nice. Sorry about that. I had to take a break. So, like I was saying, we get these screens from Mobile Centrics. They're a great brand. We never really have any problems with them. They're good quality. So, they come with backplate pre-installed. They come with a screen protector on here that is literally only so we don't scratch the screen while we're working on them. This piece of plastic, this blue piece of plastic right here, that useless screw needs to go back into here. And put in. Take the piece of plastic off, because the useless screw holds everything into place. Now, in order, we want the gold contacts to line up with this pin here and this pin here.
Sir, iPhonerepair is a spring. How can I help you?
It's right there.
Sir, iPhonerepair is a spring.
And right there. Gotta love ghost calling. So the next thing you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna line up the proc sensor and the day-night sensor. Once you have those lined up, grab the ear speaker, which is this right here, slide it into place and lay it flat down, then move the camera over the top and put it into place. Then you take the plate that covers over the top of all that, that holds everything in alignment, and you put that into place. Doesn't really matter which order you put these screws in, but I always like to start with the top right one. And the top left. And then you can let your hand go, so you can manipulate the screws themselves a little bit easier. Now remember, a speaker is a magnet. It can make your life difficult. Even with magnetic tip screwdrivers, it can still grab a hold of the screws sometimes. So remember, magnetizers are your friends. I don't use them nearly enough, and it actually slows me down. Alright, so the ear speaker is in place. Next is going to be installing the home button back in. So you're going to fold up the piece of plastic and drop it in. It'll just pop right in and stay in. Now, You want to fold this tab up with one finger, lay this tab down. Be gentle as you do this. Avoid this silver thing. Like, if you can avoid never having to touch this silver chip right here, you'll be fine. Because that is actually what holds all the information for the marriage between the home button and the motherboard. Plug it in. Done there. Now let's just put these 4 screws back in. This leg right here points towards the bottom of the phone. So we just line everything up, put it over the top, line everything up, and we're good to go. And remember, these are Y-wing screws, so the easiest method I found of doing this is you start with the 2 outside screws, and then all the inside screws pretty much line up, but you don't have to fight the plate itself. Okay, so you'll notice I'll turn the screw backwards. That's pretty much just to line the threads up, and it makes it a lot easier. Alright, so now we're ready to put the screen back in. I always start with the front camera flex first, just because it still gives me the movement I need, but starting with the other 2 just makes the other 2 difficult to plug in. It makes it difficult to plug in if you start with the other 2. You really don't get a lot of freedom. Where this one, I have a decent amount of freedom to move the screen around. Then we take this, plug this switch in, and they're very much like Legos. They just click into place like a Lego does. You just have to make sure they're lined up. Just like that. Then you just plug the battery back in, fold it over, and then hit the power button. And people are going to wonder, why haven't you put all the other plates in? Well, so we can test the screen, make sure it turns on, things like that. You know, that's a big thing, is you want to be able to test things. Everything seems to be working. Now we turn the screen off. Flip it up. Now a lot of people are going to wonder why I'm not putting adhesive back onto the ridge around the bezel around here. And the honest reasoning behind that is because it's, well, second you crack one of these open, they're no longer water resistant, and that adhesive is pretty much only there for waterproofing. These clasps right here mechanically hold into these spots here, which hold the screen into position. You also have these clasps up here. There's really no purpose to it. It doesn't improve anything. It doesn't help anything. But your water resistance is gone the second you crack the screen open, or the second you crack the screen even. So there's really no purpose to it because you have that mechanical bond to begin with. But for that reason, no, you don't actually need to put that tape back on. It's non-beneficial in any way. So, next step is closing it up. Come in at about an angle like that, slide it in, and then push the home button side down first, and then run your fingers along the sides here. And you'll feel that mechanical click into place. Now 2 screws in the 2 penaloopal screws on the bottom. And these screws thread into the pins, into the frame itself. So one of the key things about this is don't over tighten them. Make sure they're snug and they're not going to back themselves out, but definitely don't over tighten them. Plastic, all good. And that's completing the iPhone 8 screen replacement. Basic information is keep track of where your screws came from so you can put them exactly where they left. Heat isn't completely necessary. It's useful, but not fully necessary. The razor blade trick is dangerous if you haven't practiced it. There are many tutorials on how to remove it with a spudger. I always had problems with them, and those, in my opinion, have just as much risk as the razor blade method. Other than that, it's a pretty straightforward repair. I think anybody should be able to do this. I think that, the screen replacements are only, $20 a pop. You shouldn't have a big problem, replacing your own screen. So, best of luck, happy repairs, and we'll see you next time.